Sarah Chen was measuring seismic activity in her Stanford laboratory when every instrument simultaneously flatlined. She tapped the nearest monitor, puzzled by the sudden silence. In 15 years of studying Earth's vibrations, she'd never seen anything like it. The planet itself seemed to be holding its breath. The first videos hit social media 30 seconds later. Massive rectangular shapes materializing through shimmering tiers in the sky, each one larger than Manhattan. The images came from everywhere: Tokyo, London, Sao Paulo, Cairo, each showing the same impossible sight. Sarah rushed to the window just as one of the ships appeared over San Francisco Bay, its shadow turning the morning to twilight. Her phone buzzed, not a text or call, but something else. Every screen in the laboratory lit up simultaneously, displaying the same message in stark white text: "Your species is unworthy of this world." The attack began exactly 3 minutes later. The first targets were military. Satellites carrying classified payloads suddenly detonated in spectacular orbital light shows. Ground-based radar installations went dark. Nuclear submarines lurking in the depths lost all communication with their command centers. It was a systematic dismantling of humanity's deadliest weapons, executed with the casual ease of a child knocking over dominoes. Colonel James Harrison watched from the Pentagon's command center as humanity's defensive capabilities vanished from his screens. "Get me contact with any surviving bomber squadron," he ordered, fighting to keep his voice steady. "We need to get something in the air." A lieutenant looked up from her station, face pale. "Sir, nothing's launching. The runways, they're just gone. Molecular disassembly, according to the last readings. The aliens aren't destroying our weapons, they're erasing them from existence." Above Moscow, a brave or foolish pilot managed to get a MiG-31 airborne, afterburners glowing as it climbed toward one of the alien ships. A beam of light, so swift it was almost invisible, reached down from the vessel. The fighter jet didn't explode. It simply came apart, scattering into its component atoms like dust in the wind. But amid the chaos and destruction, a pattern emerged. The aliens were exclusively targeting military installations and weapons platforms. Civilian infrastructure remained untouched. Power grids hummed, internet connections stayed active, and commercial flights continued their routes, albeit carefully diverted around the massive ships now occupying Earth's skies. Dr. Elizabeth Walsh, xenobiologist at MIT, noticed something else. "They haven't deployed any ground forces," she murmured, watching footage from around the world. A species capable of this level of technology should have armies ready for planetary occupation. Where are their soldiers? Her answer came 6 hours into the invasion. A transmission broadcast globally, showing the first glimpse of humanity's attackers. The Kraxen, as they named themselves, appeared almost graceful, towering beings with elongated limbs and iridescent skin. They moved with fluid grace in what appeared to be their natural environment. But something about their message struck Elizabeth as odd. The transmission was a demand for surrender, yet the aliens remained in what was clearly their own ship in their own atmosphere. Not a single shot of them in Earth conditions. And their movements, while elegant, seemed carefully choreographed. Like actors performing for a camera while avoiding any strenuous activity. As night fell across a stunned America, the first day of the invasion ended in a stalemate. Humanity's military might had been gutted, but the aliens seemed strangely reluctant to press their advantage. They maintained their positions high above Earth's major cities, weapons ready but holding their fire. In her darkened laboratory, Sarah Chen's seismic instruments suddenly sprang back to life. The readings made her breath catch. The alien ships, massive as they were expending enormous energy just maintaining their position against Earth's gravity. Energy that seemed to be increasing with each passing hour. The planet's pull was already fighting back against its would-be conquerors. Humanity just didn't know it yet. The first real battle for Earth began in New Delhi's streets at dawn. The Kraxen finally deployed ground forces, their mechanized combat suits gleaming in the morning sun. Each unit stood nearly 4 meters tall, moving with an odd, calculated precision that made them look more like industrial robots than armor worn by living beings. Captain Arun Patel watched through high-powered binoculars from his hidden position in an abandoned office building. His squad of Indian Special Forces had orders to observe only, but something about the aliens' movements caught his attention. Their steps seemed too careful, too measured, as if each motion required careful calculation. "Sir," his communications officer whispered, "thermal imaging is strange. The suits show hot spots around the leg joints and back. They're burning through power just standing there." Before Aaron could respond, chaos erupted from the western end of the street. A group of civilian resistance fighters, armed with improvised explosives, launched an attack against the alien patrol. The Kraxen's response was devastating but revealing. Their weapons carved through concrete like paper, but their movements remained stiff, mechanical. Then it happened. A lucky shot from a civilian's hunting rifle struck a hydraulic line on one of the alien suits. The effect was catastrophic. The suit's legs buckled instantly, and its occupant's scream cut through the battle noise on all frequencies. The sound was unlike anything human ears had ever heard, pure, undiluted agony. The suit's faceplate had cracked in the fall. Through it, Aaron glimpsed something that changed everything. The alien within wasn't struggling to fight. It was struggling to breathe, its elongated form contorting in what looked like slow motion under Earth's gravity. Dr. Elizabeth Walsh, watching live satellite feeds from MIT, immediately recognized the significance. "Look at their body structure," she broadcast to military commands worldwide. "They evolved in a low-gravity environment. Their bodies literally can't handle Earth's gravitational pull without mechanical assistance." Sarah Chen's seismic data confirmed the theory. "The energy readings from their ships aren't weapon signatures," she reported. "They're gravity manipulation fields. The Kraxen are burning through massive amounts of power just to maintain their own version of normal gravity conditions." The battle in New Delhi became a turning point. As more resistance fighters targeted the suit's gravity compensation systems, more aliens fell. None survived exposure to Earth's full gravity for more than a few minutes. Their bodies, evolved for an environment where a falling leaf might take minutes to reach the ground, simply couldn't function in Earth's relentless pull. The Kraxen quickly withdrew their ground forces, but not before humanity captured vital data and one partially intact suit. Inside a hastily established research facility in the Bangalore Tech Corridor, scientists made a stunning discovery. Their homeworld has roughly 1/3 of Earth's gravity, Dr. Walsh explained to military leaders worldwide. Their bodies never developed the bone density, muscle strength, or cardiovascular system to handle our gravity. What we see as normal, they experience as crushing pressure. Even their strongest can barely move without mechanical assistance. But the Kraxen weren't retreating. Their ships still dominated the skies, their weapons still held humanity at bay. They began deploying improved suits, learning from their initial failure. Yet each new design faced the same fundamental problem. Fighting against gravity itself demanded enormous energy and left their forces vulnerable. Colonel Harrison, reviewing the data from the Pentagon's temporary underground command center, saw an opportunity. "They're not invincible," he told his staff. "They're trapped. Every minute they spend in Earth's gravity weakens them. And now they've shown us exactly how to hurt them." In orbit, the Kraxen ships adjusted their positions again, consuming even more power to maintain their artificial gravity bubbles. On Earth's surface, resistance cells began sharing information about suit vulnerabilities. Humanity had lost nearly every technological advantage in the war's first day, but they'd discovered something far more valuable. Their very planet was a weapon, and evolution had made them its perfect wielders. Pembe Sherpa had spent 30 years guiding climbers through the Himalayas. Now he guided soldiers. Crouched behind a granite outcropping at 4,000 meters, he watched an alien patrol struggling through the mountain pass below. Their mechanical suits, designed for urban warfare, slipped on the loose scree with each step. "They cannot adapt to the terrain," he whispered to Major Sandra Torres of the multinational mountain warfare unit. "See how they must calculate each movement. In these mountains, hesitation kills." The Major nodded, remembering her own first experiences with high-altitude combat. Even trained human soldiers needed time to adjust to the thin air and treacherous footing. The aliens, fighting both the environment and gravity itself, looked like tourists in expensive but ill-suited gear. A burst of static in her radio brought news from the forward observation post. The alien patrol's power signatures were fluctuating wildly. The combination of altitude, temperature, and constant gravitational compensation was pushing their suits beyond designed tolerances. "Now," Pemba said simply. The attack began with an avalanche, triggered by precisely placed charges. The aliens' sensors detected the danger immediately, but their responses proved fatal. Some tried to stand their ground, their suits unable to move quickly enough in the shifting terrain. Others attempted to activate emergency flight systems, only to find the thin air provided insufficient lift for their already strained gravity compensators. The Kraxan patrol vanished under the cascade of snow and rock. When the debris settled, only 3 of the 12 alien suits remained functional. Their weapons still worked perfectly, cutting swaths through the snow with energy beams, but they couldn't move without risking a fall. At this altitude, with their suits compromised, a fall would be fatal. Major Tor's troops had trained for this moment. Teams of mountain warfare specialists, equipped with modified climbing gear, attacked from multiple angles. They moved across the vertical terrain like alpine ibex, using the environment that had shaped their species for millennia. Dr. Walsh's voice crackled over the secure channel. Remember, their suits weren't designed for sustained operation under these conditions. The crystal matrix in their gravity compensators becomes brittle in extreme cold. Target the joint servos. The battle ended in minutes. The remaining aliens, their suits failing in the brutal mountain conditions, never had a chance to deploy their superior weapons effectively. As her troops secured the area, Major Torres realized they'd achieved something unprecedented, a complete victory without a single human casualty. The significance wasn't lost on the Kraxan. Within hours, their ships attempted to bombard the mountain positions from orbit. But the same terrain that helped defeat their ground forces proved equally challenging for their targeting systems. Energy beams that could level cities dispersed harmlessly into ancient rock faces or disappeared into deep valleys. News of the victory spread through resistance channels worldwide. The Kraxan, seemingly invincible just days ago, had a critical weakness. Their technological superiority meant nothing in environments where simply staying upright required constant effort. More mountain units formed rapidly. The Rockies, Andes, Alps, and every major range became a potential battleground. The aliens were forced to either avoid these areas entirely or risk more defeats, effectively ceding vast portions of Earth's territory to human control. In her MIT lab, Dr. Walsh examined data from the captured suits. "The mountain battles taught us something crucial," she reported to military command. "It's not just gravity they struggle with. It's any environment that requires constant adaptation. They're like deep-sea creatures trying to fight on land, burning through energy just to maintain basic functions." Colonel Harrison, coordinating global strategy, saw the bigger picture. "The mountains were just the beginning," he told his staff. "Every environment on Earth is alien to them, and now we know how to use that." In orbit, the Kraxan ships adjusted their positions yet again, their energy reserves depleting faster than expected. On their command ship, strategic algorithms processed the mounting data and reached an undeniable conclusion: this supposedly primitive world was turning into a death trap. Deep beneath London's streets, Dr. Kate Morris hadn't seen sunlight in 3 weeks. The former underground maintenance engineer now commanded a different kind of maintenance, keeping the vast network of tunnels functioning as humanity's newest fortress. She studied the holographic map showing alien positions above, transmitted by surface spotters through hardened fiber optic lines. "They moving into position of a Piccadilly Circus," her assistant reported. "Third patrol this week trying to find an entrance to the deeper tunnels." Kate allowed herself a grim smile. The Kraxan still hadn't realized that humans had spent centuries preparing for this war without knowing it. Every mining shaft, subway tunnel, and underground shelter had become part of a vast subterranean network where their technological superiority meant little. "Start the ventilation shifts," she ordered. The massive fans, originally designed to circulate air through the underground, now served a different purpose. They could alter air pressure in specific tunnels, creating invisible barriers that played havoc with the aliens' already strained gravity compensation systems. Above ground, the Kraxan patrol detected the entrance to an abandoned tube station. Their sensors showed human activity below, but something about the readings seemed wrong. The patrol leader, encased in a suit modified for enclosed spaces, made the fatal decision to investigate. As soon as the first alien entered the tunnel, Kate's team sprang their trap. The ventilation system roared to life, creating a sudden pressure differential. The alien's suit, already straining to maintain its gravitational field, couldn't adjust fast enough. It slammed into the tunnel wall with bone-crushing force. Their suits are designed for consistent gravitational conditions. Dr. Walsh's voice crackled through the secure comm. She'd been coordinating with underground resistance cells worldwide, studying each encounter. In confined spaces, they can't compensate for rapid environmental changes without overloading their systems. The lesson played out violently in the tube station. The Kraxan patrol, trying to rescue their leader, found themselves in a three-dimensional nightmare. Humans emerged from maintenance shafts and ventilation ducts, attacking from angles the aliens' combat programming hadn't considered possible. Former miners from Wales, led by Thomas Digger Davies, demonstrated techniques perfected through generations of underground work. They moved through the darkness with intuitive grace, understanding instinctively how to use the enclosed space to their advantage. The aliens, their tall frames and rigid suits ill-suited for the tunnels, never stood a chance. They're retreating, Kate reported, watching the survivors flee back to the surface. But they left us a gift. One of the alien suits, relatively intact, lay sprawled in the tunnel. Dr. Walsh's team would want this one. Each captured suit revealed new vulnerabilities, new ways to exploit the invaders' fundamental weakness. The underground war was teaching humanity lessons too, about how to fight an enemy that dominated the surface but couldn't adapt to Earth's hidden spaces. In New York, similar scenes played out in the subway system. In Paris, the catacombs became death traps for alien patrols. Moscow's metro stations, built deep enough to survive nuclear war, proved equally effective against extraterrestrial invaders. Colonel Harrison, coordinating from his mobile command center, received reports from underground networks across the globe. They're losing more suits in these engagements than in open combat, he noted. The psychological impact is significant. They're becoming hesitant to enter any confined space. The Kraxan responded predictably, with overwhelming force. They began using their ship's weapons to collapse tunnel entrances, trying to seal humans underground. But for every entrance they destroyed, 3 more existed, mapped by generations of urban planners and civil engineers. In her London command center, Kate reviewed construction plans dating back centuries. They don't understand, she told her team. These tunnels aren't our prison, they're our highway, and we know every single junction. Above, the alien ships maintained their ominous vigil, but their commanders faced an uncomfortable reality. They were fighting a war on 2 fronts. Against Earth's gravity above and against its hollow spaces below. Both battles, they were beginning to realize, they might be destined to lose. The captured Kraxan soldier lay in a specially designed containment chamber at Sion's underground facility. A gravitational field generator, reverse-engineered from salvaged suit components, maintained conditions similar to their home world. Dr. Elena Martinez watched through reinforced glass as the alien's iridescent skin shifted colors with each labored breath. Even with the gravity reduced to their normal levels, its cellular structure shows signs of stress, she reported, studying readings from multiple instruments. 3 days of exposure to Earth's gravity has caused equivalent damage to decades of high-impact sports in humans. Dr. Walsh, conferencing in from MIT, leaned closer to her screen. The crystalline structures in their bones, they're meant for load-bearing in 0.3 gravity environments. Under Earth's pull, they experience microfractures just from standing still. The breakthrough came when Sarah Chen arrived from Stanford with her seismic data. The 3 scientists, each approaching the problem from different angles, began to see the full picture. It wasn't just about gravity, it was about evolutionary adaptation on a planetary scale. Look at this, Sarah pointed to a complex graph. Their ships maintain a constant gravitational field, but Earth's actual gravitational pull varies across its surface. These microscopic variations that we've evolved to handle automatically. Their suits can't adjust fast enough. The alien in the chamber stirred, its elongated fingers gesturing in what they'd learned was their language. The translation matrix, built from weeks of observation, converted the movements to words. Your world, it fights us with every moment. How do you endure it? Elena approached the chamber. We don't endure it, she replied through the translator. We were born from it. Every step you take requires conscious calculation. For us, it's as natural as breathing. The conversation was interrupted by an urgent call from Colonel Harrison. We've got movement. The Kraxen are deploying a new type of suit. Heavier, more power cells. They're trying to brute force their way through the gravity problem. Dr. Walsh's team quickly analyzed footage of the new units. The suits were impressive, nearly twice the size of previous models, bristling with enhanced weapon systems. But the basic flaw remained. No amount of engineering could change the fact that their pilots' bodies simply weren't built for Earth's conditions. They're getting desperate, Elena observed. These new suits burn through power reserves 4 times faster than the old ones. They can't maintain combat operations for more than a few hours. Sarah's instruments picked up something else. The constant energy expenditure from the Kraxen ships was affecting Earth's magnetic field. Small disruptions at first, but growing stronger. The aliens' attempts to maintain their artificial gravity bubbles were having unintended consequences. The prisoner provided the final piece of the puzzle. Through careful questioning, they learned that Kraxen society had spent generations preparing for space travel. Their bodies, evolved for their gentle homeworld, required extensive mechanical assistance to survive anywhere else. Earth, with its crushing gravity, had been expected to fall quickly, its inhabitants presumed too primitive to resist. That's why they struck our military first, Harrison realized. They thought our technology was the only threat. They never considered that our biology itself would be a weapon. Elena compiled the data into a comprehensive report, distributed to resistance cells worldwide. Every human fighter now had detailed knowledge of exactly how their world helped them fight. Gravity wasn't just pulling the aliens down, it was exhausting them, breaking them down on a cellular level, forcing them to expend precious energy just to exist. In the containment chamber, the prisoner watched the humans with an emotion their scientists were beginning to recognize as fear. Its next words confirmed their advantage. We thought we came prepared for any weapon you might possess. But how do you prepare to fight a world that rejects your very existence? The answer humanity was learning was that you couldn't, and the Kraxen were running out of time to learn that lesson. Captain Arun Patel stood on the rooftop of a Mumbai skyscraper, watching dawn break over the Arabian Sea. Behind him, teams of engineers worked silently, coating the building's glass surface with a newly developed compound. Dr. Martinez had called it Project Ice Rink, a molecular lubricant specifically designed to interfere with the Kraxen suit's gravitational compensation. Better team in position, crackled his radio. Similar preparations were underway across the city. Mumbai would be the first test of humanity's coordinated counteroffensive, codenamed Operation Groundfall. The Kraxen had grown predictable in their patrols, their movements limited by the constant strain of Earth's gravity. They stuck to specific routes, avoiding areas where their suits had previously malfunctioned. That predictability would cost them. Contact, his spotter whispered. 6 units approaching from the north, standard formation. Arun watched through his binoculars as the alien patrol moved between the buildings. Their new heavy suits looked formidable, but he could see the telltale signs of stress, micro-adjustments in their stance, constant power fluctuations, the slight delay in each step as their systems calculated gravitational compensation. Initiate sonic broadcast, he ordered. Across the city, hidden speakers activated. The sound was barely perceptible to human ears, a low-frequency rumble tuned to the exact resonance of the Kraxen suit's gravity compensators. Dr. Walsh's team had discovered the frequency by analyzing captured equipment. The effect was immediate. The aliens' movements became erratic as their suits struggled to maintain stability. They tried to adjust, but the sonic attack prevented their systems from achieving equilibrium. That's when the true trap was sprung. Fire trucks, positioned strategically throughout the combat zone, opened their hoses. Water struck the treated buildings, cascading down the surfaces in sheets. The Kraxen, trying to maintain position, found themselves on terrain that offered zero friction. Like bowling pins in a gravity well, Arun murmured, remembering Dr. Martinez's briefing. The first alien suit slipped, its compensators unable to adjust to the sudden change in surface tension. It crashed into its companions, creating a cascade of falling mechanical giants. Similar scenes played out across the globe. In Chicago, resistance fighters used the city's famous winds to their advantage, creating artificial tunnels that disrupted the aliens' already strained flight systems. In Tokyo, carefully timed earthquakes from demolition charges threw off their gravitational calculations. The Kraken responded with brutal efficiency, unleashing their ship-mounted weapons. But Earth's defenders had prepared for this too. Underground bunkers, hardened against both conventional and exotic weapons, provided shelter. Each time the bombardment lifted, humans emerged to continue their assault. Colonel Harrison coordinated the global effort from his mobile command center. "They're burning through power reserves faster than ever," he reported. "Their ships are having to maintain wider gravity bubbles to protect their ground forces, and it's costing them." Dr. Chen's seismic networks confirmed the analysis. The energy expenditure from the Kraken ships had reached critical levels. Their attempts to maintain artificial gravity fields across multiple combat zones were straining their technology to the breaking point. In Mumbai, Aaron's teams pressed their advantage. Combat engineers deployed portable gravity plates salvaged from crashed alien suits, creating zones where Earth's pull suddenly increased or decreased. The Kraken, their bodies and technology unable to adapt quickly enough, found themselves fighting an enemy they couldn't even see. "They're retreating to their ships," Aaron reported, watching the survivors abandon their positions. The streets below were littered with fallen suits, their pilots either dead from gravitational trauma or rescued by their compatriots. But victory had come at a cost. Parts of the city lay in ruins from orbital strikes. Yet, as rescue teams moved in to assist civilians, Aaron noticed something remarkable. People emerged from shelters walking tall, proud. Earth's gravity, long taken for granted, had become a symbol of humanity's resilience. On his command ship, the Kraken fleet commander faced an impossible decision. Their ground forces were being systematically destroyed by an enemy that turned their own weakness into a weapon, and now their ship's power reserves approached critical levels. For the first time since their arrival, retreat began to look like the only option. Commander Maya Wong floated in the airlock of the captured Kraken shuttle, her team of space veterans checking their modified pressure suits one final time. 20 years of International Space Station missions hadn't prepared her for this moment, but they'd given her something the aliens couldn't match: experience operating in multiple gravity conditions. "Remember," Dr. Walsh's voice came through their secure comms, "their ships maintain 0.3 gravity to keep their crews functional. The moment you breach that field, you'll experience their normal environment. Use it against them." The plan was audacious. While the Kraken focused their remaining power on maintaining gravity fields for ground operations, human space forces would strike at their command and control systems. The aliens never expected an attack from what they considered their safe zone, space itself. Approaching the Karnak, her pilot reported, using their designation for the massive ship that directed the Kraken's orbital bombardment. "Their gravity field is fluctuating. Power readings suggest they're at 60% capacity." Maya remembered her first spacewalk, how she'd learned to interpret the absence of gravity not as a handicap, but as freedom of movement in 3 dimensions. The Kraken, she knew, saw it differently. To them, zero gravity was as alien as Earth's pull. The shuttle's stolen identification codes worked perfectly. They docked without challenge, the aliens assuming it was another routine supply run. Maya's team moved swiftly through the airlock, pushing off walls with practiced ease. The difference hit them immediately. The ship's artificial gravity felt like floating in a swimming pool, nothing like the crushing force they'd grown up with on Earth. While the Kraken needed mechanical assistance just to function in their own environment, humans found it almost relaxing. "Contact," her point man whispered. 2 alien crew members rounded a corner, their movements elegant but predictable in their artificially maintained gravity. Maya's team reacted instantly, using their momentum to swing around support beams. The aliens, unable to adapt to rapidly changing vectors of movement, couldn't track them fast enough. Dr. Martinez's modified stun weapons proved devastatingly effective. The Kraxen, their bodies already strained from weeks of maintaining higher gravity operations, succumbed quickly to the targeted electromagnetic pulses. "Engine room secured," Team 2 reported. "You wouldn't believe this, Commander. Their gravity generators are consuming 90% of their power output. They're killing themselves trying to maintain their normal conditions." The ship's command center fell next. The alien officers, accustomed to controlling battles from the safety of their gravity-regulated environments, never stood a chance against humans who'd trained for zero-G combat. Maya's team disabled the gravity system sector by sector, turning the massive vessel into a zero-G maze. Multiple ships reporting gravity system failures, Colonel Harrison's voice crackled through the comm. "The power grid connecting their fleet is collapsing. Ground forces are losing gravitational support." But the Kraxen had one final card to play. The remaining ships, abandoning their ground attack, turned their weapons on each other. Maya watched in horror as they began systematic self-destruction, choosing annihilation over capture. "They're creating a debris field." Sarah Chen's voice cut through the chaos. "The explosion cascade will scatter enough material to make Earth orbit unusable for decades." Maya made her decision instantly. Racing to the Chronicles control systems, she initiated the emergency protocols they'd discovered in the captured shuttle's database. Massive gravity generators, designed to protect against solar flares, activated at full power. The effect was spectacular. The expanding debris field, caught in the overlapping gravity waves, began collapsing inward. The Chronicles hull groaned under the strain but held. "The debris," her science officer reported in awe. "It's condensing into a stable orbital ring. The gravity fields are forcing it into a controlled pattern." Maya allowed herself a grim smile. The Kraxen's final attempt to deny humanity the stars had instead given them their first orbital construction project. Below, shears erupted from ground stations as the last alien ships disappeared in flashes of light, their crews triggering emergency quantum tunneling to escape Earth's relentless grasp. To all units, Colonel Harrison's voice held a note of finality. "Operation Groundfall is complete. Earth's gravity well is secured." 3 months after the Chronicles capture, Dr. Elena Martinez stood in a specially constructed chamber aboard the renamed vessel Unity, watching the Kraxen diplomatic delegation arrive. The room maintained their preferred gravity, but she'd grown used to the lighter conditions during her research trips to the captured ship. Her body, like those of all the human crew, adapted seamlessly between Earth's pull and the various artificial gravity zones. The alien ambassadors moved with their characteristic fluid grace in their natural conditions, but their eyes tracked the humans with unmistakable wariness. They'd learned the hard way that technological superiority meant little against evolutionary adaptation. "Your species," the lead delegate gestured in their sign language, "has achieved something unprecedented. In 9,000 cycles of expansion, we never encountered a civilization that could turn their own planet's hostility into a weapon." Dr. Walsh, representing Earth's scientific community, stepped forward. "We didn't turn it into a weapon. We simply showed you what 4 billion years of evolution under high-gravity conditions produces. Every human child learns to walk under forces that would cripple your strongest warriors." The negotiations that followed would reshape the galaxy's understanding of species development. Sarah Chen presented her findings on gravitational adaptation, demonstrating how humanity's ability to function across various gravity conditions made them unique among known spacefaring races. "The debris ring you created during the final battle," she explained, projecting a hologram of Earth's new orbital feature. "We're already using it to construct gravity research stations. Your attempt to trap us on our world instead gave us the materials to reach the stars." Commander Wong, now leading Earth's first deep space program, shared tactical data from the orbital battles. The Kraxen, despite their advanced technology, had never considered that a species could operate effectively in multiple gravity environments. Their entire civilization was built around maintaining consistent conditions. "We're already adapting your ships for human use," she reported. Without the need for constant gravitational compensation, their range and power efficiency have increased exponentially. The delegates processed this information with visible discomfort. Their civilization's fundamental weakness had been exposed, not by superior technology, but by simple biology. Captain Patel, representing Earth's ground forces, drove the point home with combat footage from Operation Groundfall. "Your suits were masterpieces of engineering," he acknowledged, "but they were trying to solve a problem we never had. We don't need technology to walk under high gravity, we were born to it." Colonel Harrison arrived with the final reports from around the globe. The Kraxen's retreat had been total, their remaining ships quantum tunneling back to their home systems, but they left behind more than debris and damaged cities. They'd given humanity a crash course in advanced technology and, more importantly, confidence in their own unique capabilities. "The treaty we're proposing," Dr. Martinez took over, "establishes Earth as a protected heavy gravity world. In exchange for sharing our research on gravitational adaptation, we gain access to your faster-than-light technology. Both our species benefit." The lead delegate's skin shifted through patterns of consideration before responding. "We came to conquer what we thought was a primitive world. Instead, we found something our technology couldn't match. A species that treats as normal what we consider impossible. The treaty is accepted." As the delegation departed, Elena joined her colleagues at the observation window. Below, Earth turned serenely, its gravity now recognized as both protection and proof of humanity's strength. The newly constructed orbital ring glinted in the sunlight, already hosting research stations and construction platforms. "They never understood what they were really fighting," Sarah mused, watching the Kraxen ship depart. "Not our weapons or our tactics, but 4 billion years of Earth's gravity sculpting us into something unique in the galaxy." Dr. Walsh smiled, remembering their first discoveries about the aliens' weakness. They came looking for a primitive species to conquer. Instead, they found out why Earth's gravity well deserves respect. It didn't just make us strong, it made us adaptable. The Unity's human crew moved easily between gravity zones as they returned to their duties, their bodies automatically adjusting to each change. In the distance, the first human-modified ships prepared for their maiden voyages to the stars. Earth's gravity had kept them planet-bound for millennia, but in doing so, it had prepared them to survive anywhere in the cosmos. Humanity had learned to dance with the force their enemies couldn't even face, and the galaxy would never be the same.